halfway. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025, the first day of the second J. The second J in baseball means this is go time. This is the serious part of the season that people who love Nothing Personal may describe as the middle of the middle. Teams have played between 84, 85, 86 games. We're on the back side of the season, hard to imagine. And what we do here is every first of the month, or the first show we have of a month, we're going to go and talk about what went on the previous month, make some predictions, and be accountable for the predictions that we made going into the previous month. So you may not remember, but we had a bunch of June predictions. Let's go. St. Louis Cardinals, they can't stay hot. What a surprise team. They're going to come down to earth, totally regress. I love you, St. Louis. You know I do. But guess what? I got it wrong. They didn't play below 500. They played at 500. That's a hell of a month. We had a theory, Coca. If we could have every month 500 or above, you just wait for the good one where you can go 8, 9, 10 over, and all of a sudden, you're going to be right there for a playoff spot. For the Cardinals to take a 14-14 from the first J, the question is, what do they do now? But we've been saying that now for months. They're 3 months in. April, May, and June. Forget the little shtup in March. And they're still really outperforming. But that prediction was a big, fat no. We also told you the Twins would be below 500. We've got a problem with the Twins. They are in a division, which we're going to talk about, the AL Central, which is a staggeringly interesting, if not crappy division. And the Twins did something that is my favorite thing to do. You extend the manager and then don't win a game. They finished 9-18, pretty much ending their season. Hard to rebound from a month like that. I said they'd go below 500, and they did. We talked about Juan Soto. We're going to have plenty to say for all you Mets fans. Stay tuned. This bud's for you. And the reason why we're going to talk about the Mets is something happened in the first J that is strange for a team that entered with such a good, positive feeling about their casino. But we said that Soto is not going to be the problem. Soto's Soto. And he was. We said he'd hit above 300 in June. He hit 322. Juan Soto was playing like Juan Soto. And wouldn't you know it, that being Juan Soto or Mike Trout or any number of the top players in baseball really is not directly correlated to how your team's doing. But we only told you what Soto would do, and he did. We also told you going into June, we said, let's take a look at Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani's going to start pitching again, though I will admit I didn't have him going one IP, and then 2 IP. Not exactly the buildup that you're looking for out of a starting pitcher, but he is superhuman. I have great respect, Coca, for Shohei Ohtani. Never seen anything like it. A true two-way player, not like a position player pitching. But it's hard. And when he signed with the Dodgers, when he was with the Angels, we've been talking about it on Nothing Personal, to be a Cy Young candidate and an MVP candidate as a hitter, it's not just unicorn. We're talking, it's almost impossible to believe, though Ohtani is doing great. But I said Judge without Homer Ohtani in June. That's a yes. Judge hit 9 home runs this month. For those of you doing the math at home, that'd be a 54 home run pace. 6 months, 9 home runs, 9 times 6. Okay, thank you. Ohtani hit 7 home runs. That's more for Judge. That's a yes. The crazy part about my June predictions is that I thought, absent the cards, even with the cards, I'd run the table. That's why they're predictions. My last one was that a seller is going to sell. How is it possible that the teams who are out of it, whether it's the Rockies, the White Sox, I was going to say the Marlins, but maybe the Marlins are saying they're in it? I don't exactly understand how sellers don't sell in June, when it gives you an opportunity to shed more money, to get an extra month of a prospect or someone in your system developing the way you want them to develop, and not one seller sold the entire month. Does that portend a slow trade deadline where there's so many buyers that there's not going to be an opportunity for teams to get deals done? I say no, because at the end of the day, rational actors will act rationally. And teams that are out of it are not going to delude themselves into thinking they're in it, and they're going to start trading their guys away. It's just off to a slow non-Devers start. Wait till we talk about Devers. Oh, do we have some stuff for you on the one trade that did happen between two non-sellers? So let's talk about what was really good in June. Oh, Coca, 4869. There were some really good things in June. I want to go through starting at the top to my good friends in Houston. Do you know how good they are? Now, you may have said to yourself, they traded away Kyle Tucker, and you'd be right. You may have said to yourself, God, it feels like their pitching is not healthy, and it also feels like their lineup can't be as good. And didn't Pena just go on the injured list, and he was having an amazing season? And I think they're in the division where other teams are doing well. Well, guess what? The Houston Astros had an MLB best 19-7 month. They allowed the fewest runs. They've got the best back-end bullpen in the name of Josh Hader, who dropped a Jordan for Jordan. That's a second cousin of a 30 for 30 and a first cousin once removed from when you save 23 games out of 23 attempts. A perfect month. Now, of course, we could tell you that after 3 months, if he's 23 for 23, could he go 46 for 46? We're talking like Gagne territory, sans needle. And it's not just that the Astros are doing this. I want to give credit to their front office, to their owner, which, believe you me, now that I'm many years removed from the game, I'm happy to give flowers to Jim Crane. When you're competing against him, you do not do that. One of the owners in that meeting where you just sort of look askance with a tiny bit of disdain, a shade of contempt. But now I look at him and I say, he knew that he could let Correa go, and he had Pena. He knew that he could trade Tucker, and he could get back. And by the way, the people he's gotten back, how about Paredes and Smith? Would you rather have them than Tucker? I think Chicago would say, I don't. But maybe they would look at it and say, given the money, given the impending free agency, given what Tucker's going to require when he re-signs with the Cubs, which they're going to have to do, given the fact of what they gave up, and don't think that doesn't come up, because it does. We all the time, we're funny, Coca. Quick side thing about how trades are. It'll be a quick 2-minute, and I'm going to get right back to the Astros. When you make a trade, I always like to say I never look back. It's like buying a stock or selling a stock. We don't pay attention. That's what the team president wanted you to know. But really, what the team president does, along with the GM and the owner, you're looking back and saying, God, I hope the person I traded stinks. I hope that the people we got back are way better than we thought, and we can win that trade. We want to win it immediately. We want to win it going forward if we got young players. And so the Cubs are clearly looking at all aspects of the trade. They look at the money that they are taking back, and then they look at how the players are doing who they traded, and that puts more pressure on the Cubs. If you are the Cubs, you've got to sign Kyle Tucker, because otherwise you'll be looked at as the schnooks who gave up quality players for what? A year of Kyle Tucker. It's not a great plan. It's a huge price to pay on a rental, which is in fact what Tucker would be. But the Astros, the Houston Astros, who have the ability to move on, like the Rays. Does it sound familiar when the Rays know how to trade guys a year too early, not a year too late? The anti-Samson, we call it. Samson's the guy, former executive in baseball, who would hold on to guys until the very last second and then buy high and sell low. That's how you get one ring and not multiple rings. What the Astros are able to do with their team and the turnover that they're able to do really is spectacular to watch. Pay attention to their lineup, and you'd think, wait a minute, they've got a Yankees-like core from 98 to 2000. They don't actually. They made the bet on Altuve, and they have cashed that bet and watched their team continue to roll. I assumed, like everybody else, dynasty done. I assumed that that was it for them. And then you look at the season and you say, wait a minute, they're doing great again. They had the best June. The aforementioned Rays, they again, second best record. You look at where they are, they're not far behind the Yankees. As I've told you, you're going to have a hard time naming 5 Rays, and no one cares inside the Tampa organization. There are people who say that Tampa needs to get more free agents. They need a higher payroll. How exciting it's going to be if they have a new owner and they build something in Tampa and the payroll can get high because all of a sudden they're going to get to make more mistakes, which will make them even better. But when you operate amazingly without a net, it would appear that the existence of a net could make you less careful, which in turn could hurt your performance. And what the Rays are doing is spectacular. 1.5 games back of the Yankees. I love you, George. But man, George would continue to be so despondent beyond repair that these gnats of an organization who've now been around for 30 years, they're just a better organization. I'm going to give you one more good here because I touched on it when I told you that Soto had a good month with average, because that was our June prediction. The Yankees and Mets are huge payroll teams. We've cataloged what Soto was signed for, $765 over 15. We've told you that the Yankees are $200 million spending more than the Rays. Just insane numbers. I would like to point out that for all the people upset about the Mets as we transition to what was bad about June, not only did Soto hit 322, Soto had 11 home runs, 20 ribbies, walked 25 times, and his OPS was over 1,190. For those of you scoring at home, that is an MVP-like month. You do that for 6 months, you win MVP. Juan Soto, totally adjusted to Flushing, totally ready for whether it's chop shops or casinos, but his team has faltered, and they have faltered in a way that up until, and this part blew my mind, up until June 12th, almost halfway through the month where we're keeping track of good and bad, the Mets had the best record in baseball. Not the best record in the National League, in all of baseball. Since June 12th. And that's not like a week where I said, Coco, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. We're now talking about almost 3 weeks of a season. The Mets have the worst record in baseball. It's not like they've just started to play worse. It's as though they have fallen off a cliff and they don't know how to get up. But it is not Juan Soto's problem. It is a major pitching problem. The same problem that we told you when the season started, when they went with the converted reliever, Mr. Holmes, and then they went with Montas and Minaya, and we said, yeah, you put them together, and well, this really, they who's going to lead this rotation? I'm not sure they have an ace. I'm not sure they have a rotation good enough. They tried to bolster their bullpen. I get it. But guess what? Since they have the worst record in baseball, you won't believe this correlation. They have the worst starting pitching and the worst relief pitching. And remember, when it started, they had the best record in baseball. Their pitching was the best. And we told you on Nothing Personal, pitching, speed, defense. You pitch well if you can hit just average in your league. But if you pitch at the top, you are going to be not just a contender, you're going to be a playoff team. But if you can't pitch, I don't care how much you mash. Hello, Colorado. Not this year, of course, but in the old days. If you can't pitch, you can't win. The Mets' ERA since June 13th, if you're a starter, is 6.22. So what that means, your starting pitcher, a 6 ERA. They're giving up 6 runs per 9 innings. That means that your offense has to score 7 to win. I know you love the math. Easy to do. Wake up, everybody. It's July 1st. But don't worry, their relief pitching's worse. 6.59 earned run average is the worst in the National League. Starting pitching is the worst in baseball. They're done in terms of June. What you do if you're the Mets is you turn the page, you start July, and you say to yourself, okay, we can't possibly play worse than we've played over the last few weeks. But look at us. 12-15. Not terrible. Not great, but not terrible. We haven't lost sight of Philly. Atlanta's not exactly catching us. The Marlins are HOTTT, not exactly catching us. Let's calm down. We're in the wild card. We can still win the division. We've got 3 months of a season. Let's go. And the way to start it is with the famous players meeting. My favorite, Coco, when the players get together. That works very easily. After a game, the players will say to the clubby, hey, we're gonna keep it shut for an extra 5 minutes. Or after a game, they'll say to the clubby, we want to have a meeting tomorrow, so keep it shut. No front office, no media, and they'll give a time. They'll tell the players. If you do a players meeting after a game, all the players are there, and you've got the veterans go into the shower and say, all right, come out of the shower. We're going to have a meeting. You get the players out of the food room. You get the players out of the training room. You sit in the clubhouse, players only. That means no front office. That means no coaching staff, no manager. We all sit in the manager's office. There is a chance we can hear the players meeting. I'm just throwing it out there. Not saying that we're eavesdropping. I'm just saying there's a chance we can hear. So the Mets have a players meeting. You know my view of meetings with the clubhouse. I think they're important. Don't do them too much. Don't do them too little. And make sure you do them when you can win the next day. Very, very important. You do it before your best pitcher is pitching, and you do it when your opponent's worst pitcher is pitching, because you don't want a meeting to happen and then for you to be terrible. So the Mets have a series against Pittsburgh, and it's worth mentioning because history was made. Not easy. Do you know that there has not been a team, and shout out, I think, to Sarah Langs. I may have gotten it through Jason Stark. Je ne me souviens pas. I cannot remember, although I should be saying that in Italian, but I've got pasta in my gut right now, and my ears are ringing, but I can't think of the exact thing except this. I believe that what the Mets did is they were outscored 30-4 in a 3-game series. They got, what is it, Coca? I'm blanking. This is live. We're live right now. I believe they got out-hit, and the Pirates had the most dominant 3-game series ever against a team where you strike out 25 guys, you outscore a team by over 25 runs, and you score 30 or more runs. Pittsburgh basically had the best 3-game series ever, and it was at the expense of the Mets. So much so that it caused the owner, the great current Steve Cohen, Stevie, my man, right out there when things are good, he said, I better say something when things are bad, especially because he's trying to get the vote from the council to get the casino. He's got to look like every man. Very hard for billionaires to be, but you can do it, Steve. Here we go. The very important tweet from Steve Cohen after this horrible Mets stretch. Tough stretch. And I'm quoting, no sugarcoating it. I didn't see this coming. Who of us does? I'm as frustrated as everybody else. I'm an everyman. I'm a fan. That's the messaging behind this. We will get through this period. Have you ever done that to yourself just to try to convince yourself of something that's true, even though it may not be true, but you feel like you can will it into existence, like the old fake it till you make it? And then he said, our injured pitching will come back over the next few weeks. Phew, we're happy about that. And it's unlikely the teams hitting with RISP will continue at this weak pace. Keep the faith, because we're keeping the faith. He dropped a Billy Joel. Yeah, the Mets are bad. But the tweet is going to save them. What else was bad this month? The AL Central is a joke. Yes, the Tigers are not. Detroit has the best record in the American League by 2.5 games over Houston. They are playing great. They had a division when we went into June where there were every team but the White Sox was awesome, like above 500, totally competitive. Now, after a June where the White Sox had the best record, sans Tigers, at 10-16, Guardians 9-16, Twins 9-18, PU, the Royals 8-18. What a disappointment! Like rivaling the Orioles for the biggest disappointment of the season. But meanwhile, Detroit leads Houston by 2.5 games for the best record in the American League. The entire division is now below 500 except for the Tigers. And they have an 11.5 game lead going into the second J. The thing about an 11.5 game lead going into the second J is you're generally going to be there at the end of S. So it appears to me that the Tigers are going to win that division. The 4 worst teams in the American League in June were the AL Central. That's just hard to imagine. Are you happy to have Devers in San Francisco? Because if you are, then you don't want to listen to this next segment, but don't turn it off. We're just getting going today. Can we talk about 4869? June bad? Devers? Giants? When you make a trade for Rafael Devers, you're expecting to start hitting. You're expecting to turn your team, give it the rocket fuel it needs. Is it possible that the Red Sox have a better record than the Giants since the Devers trade when everyone was losing their mind? How do you trade Devers? We have no offense. This is a nightmare. I don't care what it was like in the clubhouse. We need that stick in the lineup. The Red Sox have been on fire since that trade. They are 5-8. They are rolling. The DH position has been hot. I think they're hitting like 069 with 1 home run and an OPS of .1031, .406, 25, 48, 9, 422, 867, 5309. Not a great start if you're the Red Sox, but it's better than the Giants. The Giants are 4-9 since the trade. Devers is hitting 200. 2 home runs. He struck out 21 times. And I could argue, maybe persuasively, that it doesn't matter how Devers does. Let's talk about the team. All right, here's one for you. When they traded for Devers, they were only 3.5 games back of the Dodgers. You're feeling like, I can see you. I can feel you. I can touch you. And now they're 8 games back. You have to squint so hard, put on the 4.75 readers from a pharmacy. Nope, still can't see him. The Giants are cooked. Absolutely cooked. Good news is they're not the Rockies. Rockies are still on schedule after 3 months to lose the record. It's getting a little close, though. The White Sox are schwitzing just a tad bit here because it looks like the Rockies, not looks like, it's just math, they're on pace to lose 125 games. You remember the White Sox lost 121 last year, which means the Rockies, to make the White Sox the shortest record holder, tied for the shortest record holder for the worst something in a season, there is a chance now that the Rockies will actually not lose 121 games, which is shocking to me. And remember, for the White Sox to be that bad, you may not remember this, but last year, remember they had the 21-game losing streak? I mean, we'll see what the Rockies do, but right now it's looking like 37 and a $1.25. That gives you a Jack Todd-like permanent spot in the zeros column. That's bad. Time for some July predictions. That's when we tell you on July 1st things that we predict that will happen by July 31st. And this month gets bookended by the trade deadline. Predictions. 1, the Red Sox and the Yankees will be buyers during this month. The Red Sox and Yankees will be buyers for 2 different reasons. One reason is that the Red Sox traded Devers, and the thought is that we're going for it now. We're trying to win now. Craig Breslow came out and said, this is about today, not just tomorrow. All right, I'll tend to believe you if that's the case, but we better buy. 2, the Yankees are in a position where they need a ring. They can't just make it back to the World Series. They've got to win, and getting back is hard enough. Winning back-to-back pennants is hard enough. And as good as they've been, and Rodon is good but inconsistent, fine. Fried is top 3 in Cy Young, top 2, never above Skubal, so he's going to repeat. I think he won last year. He's a Cy Young winner, get his second Cy Young. But the Yankees have to make an acquisition. Second prediction. So the first one is Red Sox and Yankees make an acquisition. Second prediction. Ohtani this month will have a start where he pitches 4 innings. Whoa. Now, you may be saying, David, that's epic. That's one of your most outrageous, outlandish predictions of all time. And what I'll say to you is, no, it's not. Because right now, they're treating him like an opener, like he's rehabbing to be a bullpenner. But I think the Dodgers know, even with their lead in the division, because the Giants and Padres have just taken the fact is they've got to get Ohtani stretched. And to do it, you got to build him up. He went 2 innings pitched this weekend, 27 pitches in the 2 innings. Now they're going to build him up. He will get a 4 IP start this month. We've got the All-Star game coming this month in Atlanta. We have Acuna, who has a chance to go full Todd Frazier and win the home run derby in front of his own fans. Here's a prediction. Acuna is going to win the derby at home. It's going to be awesome. And there's going to be no home run derby curse. He is going to fly in the second half of the season, or the second part, the post-All-Star break part of the season. But the Braves are in a bit of trouble because they can't even get back to 500. But Acuna wins the derby at home. And my last prediction, I draw your attention to the 33 home run catcher for the struggling Seattle Mariners. He's fun to watch. He's leading Major League Baseball in home runs. He's going to pull up into Atlanta. He's going to be at the plate during the All-Star game. He's going deep. Cal Raleigh will homer in the All-Star game. I'm giving you that prediction. That's an impossible prediction to make. That's a huge, if you go find odds on DraftKings on homering in the All-Star game, you're going to get pretty good plus money is my prediction. But I just want you to pay attention because he's in the Pacific Northwest and you say to yourself, I don't even know what goes on up there. It's awesome there. And the season he's having, it's like history. So watch him. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to review a movie that my daughter asked me to watch, and it was quite something. And then we're going to talk about some stuff that's happening with Rob Manfred and the CBA. We'll do all that after the break. Welcome back. It's David Samson coming at you. We are live every day, most days, really it's a daily show. I take a day off from time to time. But did you watch that conversation with Millar yesterday? That was awesome. Thank you, Kevin Millar, for joining us. We'll be back Thursday. So I'm sort of taking Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week. You'll catch on. Just tune in, 7 a.m. We'll have something for you because we like having things for you. We appreciate you. We're on the DraftKings Network every day, 8 a.m. You can download our show on YouTube, Nothing Personal with David Samson. You can go to davidsamsonpodcast.com. How about the merch? How about past episodes? How about the current episode? All you want. I watch a movie every day, and therefore I get to review a movie every day. It's time for the review. I'm a sucker for documentaries, and I used to be a sucker for cruises. Yes, I miss you, Grandma and Grandpa. I miss all the cruises we used to go on and all the fun I used to have. I would work in college to make money to pay to go on a Carnival cruise for spring break because I didn't want to just, although I did go to Fort Lauderdale one time, ironically, I ended up moving there. And that was pretty cray cray. But a Carnival cruise, spring break, oh, bring it. Well, what you don't want to have happen when you go on a cruise is for you to lose power. What you don't want to have happen is you lose power for multiple days. And what you really don't want to have happen if you're David Samson is any sort of toity issues. There's a new TrainWreck series on Netflix. We reviewed the Astro World tragedy, I think on Levitard, maybe not here. There's a bunch of other ones that I've watched and will review, but this one specifically I was told to watch by my daughter because it's called TrainWreck, Poop Cruise. Now, you say poop, I say crap. We say tomato, you say tomato. I say let's sleep on deck because it's a living nightmare with no AC and sewage flying all over the place. The reason why I'd like you to watch this is you can look at it, and what I keep doing when I'm watching it is I keep thinking about the big three, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and LeBron James. I keep thinking about Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. I keep thinking about the championships. And then I keep thinking about how jealous I was as a front office person with the Marlins, knowing that Carnival would never sponsor us because they were sponsoring the Heat. And believe me, you think there's no competition? We're all lovey-dovey with each other? Horse hockey. Not $1 from Carnival. Why? They're sponsoring the Heat in ways that are so illegitimately high that it would make you say, is there a common ownership there? And there is. Not a good look that this was Carnival and a poop cruise. You should just watch it because it will remind you that maybe going on a Carnival cruise might not be the best plan. And what's even funnier is the way Carnival, you may want to buy the stock, well, not if you want to overperform the index, but what is interesting is at the end of the poop cruise, what the settlement was and what they gave every passenger, unless you sued them, which is moral of the story, sue, you get more, like $500 and a free cruise. It doesn't seem like enough for living and wallowing in poop for multiple days. So tomorrow, nothing. But Thursday is when we review our top 100 every Thursday. And we are reviewing The Social Network. If you haven't watched it, watch it. If you have, watch it again so you're ready for a social network discussion, maybe even a social network part 2 discussion. Wait to see. We're not doing it tomorrow, but every Wednesday when there's a show, the second hour of Nothing Personal is a So You Want to Talk to Samson. I have had the best time with Coca listening to your voicemails. Please pick up the phone and call 631-DPS-4869. That number again, 631-377-4869. Leave a message. It may make the show. I love talking about collective bargaining. I love watching it unravel, unspool. I love how organized baseball always was, from the commissioner to the head of labor, all the way down to the ranks of the labor department, the LRD it's called, Labor Relations Department, all the way to teams' front offices. We are focusing on the collective bargaining agreement, not just while it's being negotiated. We focus on the CBA every single day something comes up. I would tell you, and I am not exaggerating, there was not 2 days that would go by in a row without somebody talking to the LRD in our baseball department or our front office talking about the existing CBA or what we're trying to find in a new CBA. Commissioners have taken different tacks as they navigate how to deal with the new CBA and negotiation, lockout, strikes, all the things that come normally with management and labor. All of it's normal. Rob Manfred, as he enters supposedly into the sunset of his being commissioner, as very many worthy candidates are trying to differentiate themselves, with one doing even better than most, Rob has decided this is a unique and perfect opportunity to try something different, because he knows he's got an owner's situation where there could be turbulent waters ahead in terms of the negotiation. So what Rob has decided to do was to go straight at the union, and I mean early. The negotiating of the next CBA, which expires in December of 2026, it'll officially get going. And when I say officially, I want to explain that that's a legal term. When you officially start bargaining for a new agreement, it's when you choose the shape of the table, you choose the location, you have official sessions. Hey, we're going to do a session on Tuesday from 9 to 11 a.m. And we'll do it at this place with these people. There's committee on both the player side, on the owner's side, official bargaining. And the reason that matters is, from a legal standpoint, if you're going to have a lockout or a strike, there's federal laws involved here to protect workers, in theory. And so you have to do things by the book. What Rob's doing now is sort of the pre-book. It's like the research for the book. It's what you're doing when you're thinking about, how do I gain a true advantage? And he just came out and said, there seems to be kind of a mismatch, he said. And this was to investors at an event held by the Atlanta Braves. Reminder, the Atlanta Braves are a publicly held team. Reminder, when you're a publicly held team, there's a level of disclosure for that company that is far greater than any privately held team. Reminder, there are investors in publicly held companies, and I don't mean the people who buy 2 shares of stock of the Green Bay Packers. The Atlanta Braves, different story. When you have a public company, you have earnings projections, you have earnings and calls with analysts from Wall Street. There's all sorts of things you have to do. You have investor events. Rob Manfred spoke at one of these investor events, and he said there's kind of a mismatch between what we see at the union leadership level and what the players are thinking. That's a major statement. Less so if you remember the history. Last collective bargaining agreement, there was a vote taken when a deal was finally made. Here's who gets to vote to ratify an agreement between players and management. 30 player reps, and then every member of the players' executive council. The last time the CBA got approved after the season was delayed, there was overwhelming support from player reps and underwhelming support from the executive council. So normally the executive council would be telling players, here's what we think, you should think the same. But the last CBA, it was the opposite. When Rob tells you there's a mismatch between union leadership, he's not just talking about Tony Clark or Bruce Mayer. He's talking about player v. player. And when you can drive a stake between players, it's a winner. So he decided, and he said this, the strategy is to get directly to the players. I don't think the leadership of this union is anxious to lead the way to change. So we need to energize the workforce in order to get them familiar with, Rob said, or supportive of the idea that maybe change in the system could be good for everybody. Oh, Rob, you couldn't have said it better. When you're trying to effectuate change that will appease the people you work for, the 30 owners, and you know that there's going to be rough waters with the union, there's no better way to do it than by telling the union, you may not get it, but I promise you it's going to be way better for you. And then you can mask it by winning all sorts of points in labor negotiating, like pension and things that really current day players aren't overly focused on, or on limits of salaries, or on limits of how many years you can go in a contract. But if you raise the minimum salary, you can appeal to an overwhelming majority of union members who don't ever make it to arbitration. So what would be better than by saying, hey, listen, stop paying attention to the top of the union and these guys making $700 million. The focus should be on yourselves and people who come after you who won't even make it to arbitration or free agency. And we're going to get you more because we're going to raise the minimum salary. And then while you're not paying attention, we are going to have a quashing impact on overall payroll. We're going to have a quashing impact on the top of the market. We are going to go after Boris in a way that would give you night sweats, but you're going to vote for it. You're going to love it because your leadership is going to lie to you because they are absolute victims of the top. But you're going to vote for it at the bottom because we're going to explain it to you. It's genius. Now, it doesn't mean there won't be a lockout. It doesn't mean there won't be missed games, but I absolutely loved it. Now, Tony Clark has no choice but to say, which he said in a statement to The Athletic after Rob's comments were made at the Braves investor event, he said, hey, this is just a sales pitch by Rob. It's full of misleading or downright false statements. He suggested the commissioner was trying to drive a wedge between players. Yes, he is. Every day. Tony Clark said, like he had to do a statement. At a time of resurgent attendance, record revenues, and increasing franchise values, those are the three legs of the stool that the union always uses to try to get more and to try to get public support, saying those nasty billionaire owners, they're so cheap. Support us, the union. At a time of resurgent attendance, record revenues, increased franchise values, MLB should be focused on further promoting our sport. There's a whole group of people doing that. Side note. Instead, their stated plan is once again to try to divide players from each other and their union in service of a system that would add to owners' profits and franchise values while prohibiting clubs from fully competing to put the best product on the field for fans. Do you know what he's talking about? I think you do. I think you do. He's talking about the fact that there's a bunch of teams that aren't trying to win, supposedly. And Kevin Millard talked about it yesterday on the show. And I actually take issue with that, even though Coca totally agrees with Millard. That's fine. I'm not here, Coca, for you to agree with everything I say. I feel that way about the audience, too. The whole league's going to finish 500. I think you get that. 30 teams. There's always going to be teams at the bottom of the payroll, no matter what. There's always going to be teams who lose the most games, no matter what. Do we always say that when a team loses games, they're not trying to win? Or do we just say, hey, no one should be losing 100 games? It's just wrong. When you are told by your players' union head that there are teams who are not competing, it's like page 2 of the playbook. Let's let the fans think that your owners aren't trying, so you can have a front page article about how cheap and penurious and how profitable these teams are and how much they're worth, which could be true, may be true, but if you don't sell it, it's not true. And do you know that the reason why revenues go up, and when revenues do go up, they're split and money goes to players? I've never understood the argument from either the NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB. In the salary cap sports, there is tagged revenue, meaning 50% of every dollar goes to the players. I'm making up the number, but say it's 50. Wink, wink, it is. Baseball may be down at 47, 46, 48. There were years it was up at 52 and 53. Doesn't matter. But what it means is when you increase revenue, definitionally, players will be getting more money. Caps will be going up. Rob Manfred gets to say every time Tony Clark complains about revenue split, it plays right into the salary cap. He gets to say to Tony, Tony, we would have pegged revenue 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 8 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Happy to do it. It's called the salary cap. Are you in? Let me know. Be sure to get back to me. Nothing personal pick of the day. You may not remember from Friday, but we had the Diamondbacks beating the Marlins because the Diamondbacks had to beat the Marlins because they're falling further and further behind the failing Giants and Padres. They can barely see, as I told you, the Dodgers. They got the Marlins coming to town who had just swept the Giants, a division foe, and the way you make your start to relevancy, even though Corbin Burns is hurt and they're in trouble, yada, 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 you got to beat the Marlins. To me, it was a slam dunk. What I didn't realize is that the Marlins were going to be in the middle of a historic road trip, which they are. The historic road trip is they won 6 games of a road trip. I never had them do that. 16 years with them. We never did that. We never swept a road trip like that. This Marlins team did. This Marlins team is playing great. This Marlins team beat that Diamondbacks team, so we lost that game. But luckily, thankfully, we've got Corbin Day. Corbin Day was yesterday, and we had Corbin losing to the Orioles. And he did. I must say that it makes me smile. People are asking us Coca nonstop about Corbin Day. Why do you do that? Where did that come from? Well, it came from the fact that he was overpaid by the Nationals and just stunk. Now he's better, but we are doing well. If you're keeping track of Nothing Personal Pick of the Day, we're 87 and 86 for the season. I would say that Corbin Day has been profitable for us. So we are 87 and 86 going into today's game. Who do we got? Well, this is a big moment for the New York Metropolitans. Remember, we are going to take the Brewers. Sorry, I love you, Milwaukee, and you know the Mets have to win a game. They're going to say to themselves, turn the page, start right now, July 1. This is the game that matters. The Brewers, though, are underdogs with Peralta pitching. Peralta is, if you haven't watched Peralta with the Brewers, he's got plus stuff, multiple pitches that are out pitches, swing and miss type stuff. Now, the pitcher for the Mets is Clay Holmes. Holmes has actually been, fine, better than fine. But the Brewers getting plus money, we absolutely have no choice but to take it. Now, it doesn't mean that the Mets are going to have a bad July. It doesn't mean that I am changing my mind that the Mets are going to turn around and be somewhere in between the best in baseball and the worst in baseball and make it to October. It actually doesn't mean that I couldn't have had a July prediction that the Mets are going to have a winning record and that they're going to be one of the top teams again. It just means it's not going to happen now. That's all. Brewers over Mets is the Nothing Personal Pick of the Day for Tuesday, July 1st. You're going to want to stay tuned for hour 2 because we're going to have Stan Van Gundy with us. Stan Van Gundy is going to talk and play a game with us that he doesn't know about yet, but he's going to love it, and it's fun, and it's nothing like Le Batard, but we are going to talk NBA and all the things related to the NBA, so stay tuned. We'll have a short break and come back with hour 2. found nothing personal on Tuesday, July 1st. Second hour. We do 2 hours now. We've been doing that since June 2nd. And part of the new show is every Tuesday and Thursday, you're going to hear from a guest. And this is a get. I want to welcome in a coaching legend. Stan Van Gundy is blessing us with his time. Hello, Stan. How are you?
I'm good, David. How are you?
We have, oh, you're funny. You're almost in the middle. You look great. You've got the off-season beard going, sort of like the scruff, the mustache. For those of you watching on the Nothing Person with David Samson YouTube channel, and if you're listening, then you just have no idea what I'm saying. And we wanted to bring Stan in because as NBA free agency is underway, signings are happening. We want to play an important game called Stan Van In or Stan Van Out.
Okay.
Stan, I'm going to give you some stuff, and you're just going to have to be honest. Are you in or are you out?
Okay.
Number one, the Rockets will win a title with Kevin Durant.
I'm out on that. Not going to happen. I think that they gave up too much on the defensive end, and I don't think the rest of their guys are ready yet. So I'm going to say I'm out on that.
Is Durant, are you out not just with the Rockets, because Durant has a habit of being traded from time to time and sort of not being unhappy? Is he done as a top 10 or top 20 NBA player?
I'd say he's more in that top 20, but the guy can still score the ball with anybody. And as you know, David, in the playoffs, it gets tough. All the game slows down a little bit. It becomes a little bit more half court. And you need guys you can just throw the ball to, can go get a shot. And Kevin Durant can still do that. He's as efficient as anybody. I think he'll be really good. But the Rockets have built their brand on the defensive end of the floor. And I think they took a step back there. You losing Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, I just don't think they're going to have enough in the West.
Is that a situation where they have not been able to replace that defense? Because they're still making moves. They brought back Van Fleet, and apparently at a discount, though I have a hard time wrapping my arms around $40 million a year as a discount. But that is, I guess, the NBA where it counts just so differently. Fred Van Vliet, little fact here for you, Stan. He makes more money than than everybody, even Juan Soto. I
Look,
can't bear
that
it.
is the NBA right now. But here's the thing. I mean, as you know, better than anybody, this is all collectively bargained. And so the players get 51% of the revenues, and it's going to get split up. So the owners have to be doing well revenue wise for the players to make what they're making. So it's gotten crazy, but hey, more power to them.
David is no longer with us. We have lost David, but we are still live. So, Stan, I will continue to play this game with you. If you can hear me
Okay.
right now, we're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep going.
All right.
All right. So, next up on the list, we are going to go with the Knicks made a mistake by getting rid of Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, they totally did. That was a big mistake. Tom Thibodeau, one of the best coaches in this league, did a unbelievable job with that team this year. Maximized virtually everyone on their roster. I mean, OG Anunoby, best year of his career. Carl Anthony Towns, probably the best year of his career. Jalen Brunson, a guy who was, a 15, 16 point a game scorer in Dallas, who has become a star. Josh Hart went from a backup to a triple double type of guy in New York. I mean, he just maximized this roster and took them place they hadn't been in a quarter of a century. And they make a coaching change. Made absolutely no sense to me.
But Stan, what is it about Tom Thibodeau that made the players? And the rumor is that the players on the exit interview were disappointed and maybe didn't want him back. I thought I was in the minority. I thought Dolan had a plan because when we fired, you know us from Miami, we fired managers every day, but we always knew what was next, who was next. Now it sort of feels like Dolan didn't have a plan, and maybe those exit interviews were a bigger deal than we thought.
Well, again, I don't go too much on the rumors. And look, you hit the end of any season, you're talking to guys the day after a disappointing loss, and a lot of things are going to come out. I think it's a bad way to make decisions, to read too much into those things. And clearly, there was no immediate plan. So we'll see what happens. That's a good team that I thought overachieved. The East, obviously, with all of the injuries around the East is pretty wide open. So I know New York thinks they've got a great chance next year. We'll see what happens.
But if you think they overachieved and it wasn't enough and they were clearly not as good as Indiana, what sort of changes would the Knicks need to make? Because what I thought you were going to say is the Knicks got more because of Coach Thibs. They actually did more than they should have done, and he was the reason, but yet it wasn't enough. So if you're the owner of that team, aren't you trying to make changes in order to get it? So overachieving means winning a title?
Well, here's the thing to me is I think that front offices often miss. Everybody talks about, well, we were good, but we want to get to the next level. And I think what people forget, David, there's next levels down also. And when you get to where the Knicks did to be in the conference finals, there's far more levels down than there are up. And most of the time when these teams, it's just because of the odds, most of the time what works out is the teams do get to the next level, and that level is down.
I love that. Our audience, I've never heard that. I'm in on that. We're playing Stan Van in or Stan Van out. Next topic. LeBron's best shot at a championship next season is not with the LA Lakers.
Well, I'm in on that. It's definitely not with the LA Lakers, but I don't know where it would be or what deal would have to materialize. I expect him to be back in LA. I think they're pretty good. I think it will certainly help them having a training camp and a full season with he and Luka Doncic together. But I still don't think they have enough.
Do you think that LeBron made a mistake taking the full player option? He was famous in Miami when we were around there, supposedly taking less, making it so you can have a better roster around you. Players, James Harden just signed for $40 million a year and said, "Oh, this was because I love you, Steve Ballmer, and I want the Clippers to be good, and so I'm only going to take 80 over 2." Did LeBron? Do you view what he did as selfish? Because I personally don't. You should get paid the most you can always, but he's getting a little hate for this.
Yeah, listen, LeBron's gotten a little hate for a long time for a lot of different things, whether it was, his decision to come to Miami that he announced on TV, whether it was bumping into Eric Spoelstra, whatever it is, LeBron's gotten a lot of hate for a guy who has had the best career of any NBA player ever. And we can argue who the best player has been in the NBA, but it's hard to argue that anyone's had a better career. The most amazing thing to me is this guy's been a national figure since he was in 8th grade. What's the biggest off-court controversy you've got on this guy? This guy's done nothing except represent the game of basketball in the league well, and yet there's this hate for him. Look, more power to him. I think he took the 1 year. Not only can he make a decision at the end of the year, but the Lakers can too. So I don't think it was selfish at all. And he gets another year with his son, which I think was really, really important to him. So I don't think there was anything selfish about this.
Is he catching? I read this, and obviously we're live, so I'm not, and you saw with the Wi-Fi in Italy, I'm not sure I'm prepared. Is he about to catch the Chief? So not only is he one of the greatest players ever, But is he going to have more games played by the end of this year than anyone in the history of the NBA?
He
Coca, did
is.
I
I mean,
read that right?
absolutely. And he'll have scored more points. And, he's going to be second or third on the assist list all time. He was going to the NBA finals every year. Like, just put it on your calendar. Look, this guy's had a phenomenal career. And I have never understood the negativity around him. I think a lot of it was there's so many people out there, David, who just revered Michael Jordan. And the fact that people would question, is LeBron as good, led to a hatred of LeBron instead of an appreciation of what he's done. And I think that's unfortunate.
It is amazing, though, that you're in on the fact that they're not title contenders. And our friends at DraftKings may have future odds already, but you've got Luka and LeBron. The theory is that you should be able to at least be a contender, but you're suggesting they're not even a contender to win a title next year.
I don't see it. I mean, now if they could add a big guy, if they could figure out their point guard situation, they've got a lot going on. They need more shooting. They need more depth. They need a lot more on that roster, and I don't see how they put it all together for next year.
So the next Stan Van in or Stan Van out, let's talk NBA expansion. Let's talk the dilution, adding 2 teams. Forget, it could be Seattle, could be Vegas. We can talk about how many billions the fee is going to be. What is your view from an on-court perspective of NBA expansion? And are you in or out?
On court, I'd be out. I mean, I think that, if anything, I'd contract a little and just get more of the best players on the floor for the product itself. But overall, I'd be in on the expansion because I think there's some good markets out there. Seattle, Vegas, maybe Kansas City. I think there's some good places that would draw well and would support NBA teams. So I'd be in on expansion, but certainly on the court, we'd be better off with fewer teams.
You know that 28% of our audience would be able to say that Ernie Grunfeld and Otis Birdsong played for the Kansas City Kings. They were a team.
That's pretty good if that many people could say that, to be quite honest. I saw them play when Bob Cousy was doing the player coach thing there. So yeah, that I do remember those days, which tells you that I'm not a young man.
But still, we have some history. I was talking to my son who loves the NBA, and we were talking about the Big O and Red Holzman, and I talked stories of days of gone by. He had not heard of the Rochester Royals, and it made me despondent beyond repair.
Well, that was when I was in college in upstate New York. Bobby Wanzer was coaching at a local college, St. John Fisher, and he had played for the Rochester Royals. And, we just thought that was the coolest thing in the world that he had played there. So I love the history of the NBA and those guys who, really built the league and certainly weren't getting rich and famous at that point.
I want to keep going with Stan Van in or Stan Van out. You're going to have to stay with me here, but I have an idea. And I'm the one not sort of credited by Jason Stark, but I like the idea of the designated hitter rule where anyone can hit in the 9th inning. So you can have Judge hit twice in a row if you're down 1 or whatever. I'm okay with rule changes. So this is a big one because one of the complaints that people have about today's game is that everyone is just standing outside the 3-point line and you're driving to the hole and then out, move the ball, open 3. Teams can go 10 for 50. It's just, I miss the pick and roll. I think Red Holzman is rolling in his grave. But I have a rule change. I want to know if you're in or out. Here we go. If you hit a 3-point shot and we're going to move the 3-point line back by 4 feet, we're going to go to Steph Curry land, like from the logo, Caitlin Clark, and we're going to make that a 4-point shot. But the original 3-point line as it exists today, if you're behind that line the way everyone is all the time and you're not behind the new one, you only get 2 points, not 3. And finally, I want to bring back the paint. I want to bring back the elbow, the mid-range shot that we saw that can be effective by certain players in the NBA. I'm going to give you 3 for that. So we've got 3 levels, a 2, a 3, and a 4. I want to make the game a little bit more beautiful. Thoughts?
I think your goal is very good. I think we go crazy. You have like having all these different value shots, trying to keep up with it. I think it's simpler to get to sort of what you want. What I would like them to do is just take the 3-point line where it is at 23-9 and keep it at that distance all the way around. So you'd run out of room in the corner. There would be no corner 3, because I think what's happened to the lack of movement in the league is virtually everybody puts a guy in each corner and he's just standing there. And it's the shortest 3-point shot. If you took the corner 3 out, there would be no value in having somebody stand down there. And so I think you'd incorporate more movement into the game. 3-point attempts would necessarily go down just because there wouldn't be as much room on the floor. And I think we'd accomplish the goals that you want and that I agree with without having multiple lines down there. I think we bring that stuff into the game. Do I expect any of it to happen? Nope. I think the NBA is pretty happy with where the game is now. I don't think we'll see it change, but I will say, I think Adam Silver and look, baseball made changes, which I thought were good. And I think these people in league offices don't get enough credit. I think they are always looking at ways to make the game better. They're slow to change, which they should be, but they're certainly not opposed to trying to find better ways to do things. So maybe down the road, we'll see some of these things in the NBA.
Well, we've got a new CBA that's going to be negotiated. The final one of Stan Van in or Stan Van out. Dynasties in the NBA are dead.
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm probably in between on that. They certainly are right now. We've had 7 different champions in 7 years. But I still think it's possible to do something like what the Warriors did. I think OKC will be our proof of that one way or another. I think they are certainly built to sustain success over the next 4 to 5 years. So I think it's still possible. So I would say that dynasties are still possible, but difficult.
Did you not think that the Celtics had an opportunity, or when the Cavaliers were playing well? I'm referring, when I say it in my head, to the absolute usurious, some would argue, penalties of being in the second apron that makes even the richest of owners say to themselves, you know what? This just is not worth it to live here. And now you've got the Cavs who are entering it because the extensions to Mitchell and Mobley, which were everyone was so excited. Oh my God, we're keeping together this great team. And now they're saying, oh God, like we have to let certain guys go. I think that second apron will make it so, unless it disappears in the next CBA, which it probably won't. I think that's what crushes the dynasties the most. And Oklahoma City is going to happen too, Stan. They're going to get expensive.
No question. Look, it happened the last time, and even when the rules were different with Oklahoma City, when they had Durant, Westbrook, Harden, Serge Ibaka, and Sam Presti was forced into a decision. He couldn't keep them all, and he let Harden go. So, it always gets tough in the salary cap. Salary cap management is probably the most important thing. That, and obviously, being able to identify talent, particularly in the draft, because if you don't have those guys on rookie contracts being able to produce and give you depth on lower salaries, it's really, really difficult to stay on top. So they have some tough decisions to make, but I think they've got so many draft picks and they have such a great history of drafting that they'll be able to roll over some of those positions and still have great depth. And I think we'll see them win, let's say, 2 or 3 of the next 4 years.
Well, I think we'd agree. If they win 3 titles in 4 years, that's dynasty. But you're also saying something that I'm thinking about, which is you're saying not with the same players. And so
Well,
that means that
same stars. I think their core of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren will stay together. Now, as some of the other guys, Lou Dort, whatever, those guys get more expensive, they're going to have to change their bench a little bit. But I think they have enough picks lined up that they'll be able to do that.
I want to end. This is Stan Van Gundy you're hearing too. We just played a game of Stan Van in or Stan Van out. You're the first person to ever play that game. Thank you for doing that. You played great. And I told you it wouldn't be like a Levitard game. It was just a legitimate, here's some topics I want to talk about. This is not an in and out kind of topic, but I'm interested as you are building teams, and obviously your success is just go Google Stan Van Gundy if you want to understand what success is in the league. What the Magic have done and the moves they've made, when they see the Achilles injuries happening, they see Jason Tatum go down, they see Halliburton go down, and they say to themselves, oh, we may need to alter our schedule here because there could be an opportunity. Let's go now. When you're coaching a team or running their, basically building a team, how easy is it to adjust your timeline in the NBA based on what other teams what happens to them?
Well, it's not easy, but the Magic have done a great job. Jeff Weltman has done a tremendous job. I think he's made astute picks in the draft, and he's kept his powder dry. He hasn't gone in too early, David. So he gave himself a chance that when he saw an opportunity, he had the flexibility to make some moves and was able to do that. I thought he's done a great job. I think Desmond Bane helps him. And I think sometimes these smaller moves like Tyus Jones yesterday as a point guard are just absolutely huge. But as you know, you've been around it a long time. It's the same thing with baseball, particularly pitching staffs. I mean, injuries are the whole thing, and health. And so the Magic's opportunity, the Knicks' opportunity, all these teams with Tatum, Halliburton, Damian Lillard down, the opportunity increases, but the injury risk is out there for any of those teams also. There's nothing more predictive of success than health, maybe other than talent, but health is going to, be the whole thing. You get a couple pitchers go down in baseball, you can have the greatest team in the world. You're going down the tubes. You get a star that goes down in the NBA, you're out of luck.
And the thing about injuries is that the amount of money that front offices spend and leagues spend trying to study injuries, why are pitchers getting hurt? Adam Silver is talking about, let's figure out what's going on with these Achilles injuries because there were more this year, they were done last year. In my whole career, and Stan, you've had a longer career than I did, I've never read one article or saw one thing that made me think, oh, if I just do that, if I stretch 5 minutes earlier, if I have special things on the airplane while the players are flying, if I change the rotation, if I give an extra day here, take a day away there, more pitches, fewer pitches, a bigger bag, 2 first bases, that'll stop everything. I haven't found one thing that works because the human body is not meant to do what these athletes do. Am I looking at it wrong?
I think you've got that exactly right, David. Like, here's the thing. Athletes have just continued to get better and better and better. And so that's fantastic, but the human body can't keep up. And I mean, so it's great. We can train the muscles to get stronger and more powerful, but tendons and ligaments can't be trained. And so you're going to have injuries. Listen, why have there been more people? Guys used to throw 300 innings a year in baseball. Yeah, they weren't throwing 100 miles an hour, and they weren't throwing with the spin rate that they're throwing with now. All of those, it's the same thing in basketball. With these guys jumping and landing and the force that goes on and the pace that they're playing with, I mean, that is a huge part of it. To me, the only thing you can do, most of it's going to come down to luck. The only thing you can do is condition these guys as much as you possibly can to meet the rigors of what they're going to go through. But a lot of it's still going to come back to luck.
I had another idea that I got no traction on because it was a way to control costs and a way to get better players with no injury risk. And my thought was that we could 3D print players. Therefore, there's no ligaments, no tendons, no Tommy John surgeries, no sprained ankles, no nothing. And we build the perfect player. It's like Steve Lee Majors, the bionic player. I think that's our only hope.
Yeah, it could be. That would be very, very, very interesting. I think I think part of it, it's like anything in evaluation. I think there are some body types and characteristics that seem to get hurt less. But that would be the less explosive guys. You know that. I mean, those left-handed pitchers who are throwing 88, David, they don't get hurt,
And they can do it forever.
And they can do it forever and they can help you, but can you win a championship with them? Probably not. Not as your key guys. It's the same thing in the NBA. There's guys that can go out there every single night and play 82 games, but are they the guys who can, carry you to a championship? Probably not.
Stan, I've kept you 90 seconds too long, but I could keep going. Thank you so much for doing this with us and for being on Nothing Personal. Stan Van Gundy, thank you. We'll do this again, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too, David. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Okay.
That was great analysis from Stan Van Gundy. Absolutely willing to play the game while almost looking into the camera, while realizing that we had some Italian Wi-Fi issues, and Matt Coca, producer extraordinaire, takes over, doesn't miss a beat, and you just heard your first example of Stan Van In or Stan Van Out. What I didn't cover with him because I was being nice, playing the game, didn't want to go through it, but there's something going on in the NBA that is something that I want to talk about with you. 4869. Malik Beasley is being investigated right now for gambling. This may sound familiar to you. You may realize there was another NBA player whose last name rhymes with Dorter who may be banned because there were some weird issues surrounding prop bets. You may also recall that the league and certain other colleges, universities, NCAA, certain ruling groups have said, what do we do about these prop bets that it seems could be controlled by the players and would open up the players to maybe being influenced and would have a major league deleterious impact on all of our view of the integrity of our game? Well, wouldn't you know that Malik Beasley right now, we found out, is being investigated by federal authorities. They're investigating him on allegations related to NBA games and prop bets. This was a story that ESPN got and ran with on Sunday. This is back from 2023 and 24 when Malik Beasley was a member of the Bucks. Not good timing as Malik Beasley is a pending free agent. Not good timing as the Detroit Pistons, for whom he played last year, were ready to sign him to a long-term deal and have now said, well, hold on a second. I think we probably don't want to do that. Here's what's being discussed in my brain, back and forth, all day. Where are we with gambling and gambling companies and all of the rhetoric out there that now everything is so prevalent, and now we've got leagues who are endorsing, holding hands, posing for pictures, sponsoring shows. Of course, it has increased the amount of gambling that players are doing, which is going to be a problem for leagues. And I say you're just wrong. Back in my day, when players were gambling, they weren't doing it with legal sports books. Players were gambling, and it was hard to find where they were gambling, what they were gambling on. We would read them a rule every spring training at the end and say, don't gamble on baseball, please, and don't do anything illegal. Did it stop players, management, front office? Did it stop everyone from doing it? No. What has happened now that gambling companies are hand in hand with leagues is there is a level of oversight. Picture it like efficient government oversight. Picture it where people are getting caught in ways they didn't dream of getting caught because there are algorithms. It's not like there's people who work for the gambling companies who are staring at screens and looking for usernames, but they are able to track trends. They're able to do things that in the old days when you went to Vegas, you couldn't just walk up to the counter and drop $100,000 on St. Bonaventure +8. It's going to raise a red flag. If someone's going in and going heavy on Malik Beasley under rebounds or over points, or a team that he's involved in on a +7 line, betting line that all of a sudden has unusual action that causes line movement the way you'd see at a horse race when some crazy person puts a couple million on a long shot that then becomes not the long shot. Side note, you're aware of how horse racing odds work. They move where the money moves. So when companies are able to monitor this through technology, it should have a quashing impact on the gambling because players are told, dudes, you're going to get caught. I remember so clear as day, Coca, that we would talk to executives and players and employees about all things, not just gambling, about wearing enemy teams' stuff in your social media, which would cause me to end their careers. All things, given where we are today, people are watching. People are listening. People can see. And if a player is going to risk a $42 million 3-year contract offer from the Pistons, now he may not have known it was going to exist when he was doing this with the Bucks, but when you're a player, you're playing for free agency. You're playing for the dream, the possibility, the moment, the minute chance that you can be a free agent and be in the money and live the rest of your life, because the majority of players can't live the rest of their life. But if you've got that chance, you grab it, you take it, and you protect against doing anything that could get in the way. And do you want to know what gets in the way? Taking an inbounds pass with 4 seconds left when the game's over, driving the length of the floor, and then dunking it in order for your team to cover the spread. That can get in the way. I'm not exactly sure I understand how people make the decision to cross the line. This is not just about gambling. This is about illegal activity, both white collar, blue collar, whatever color your color prefers. All good. I want to know about crossing the line. We have a legal system. Is it emotion? Is it premeditated? Are you insane? We will go through and give you the benefit of several doubts as we try to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that something's happened. We will take the time to give you any out that could possibly exist for an action you take. Tell me, what is the out that you want when you're a player who acts like that, who bets on yourself or against yourself or on your sport or in your sport? Tell me the out that you want. When you're making the bets, when you're making the decisions that you're making, I feel the same way about putting a needle in your tuchus with steroids. Tell me what you want. You're going to say that you've got a stomach ailment. You're going to say that you've got bookies who have something on you and you worry for your safety. You're going to argue correctly so that you don't want to hear the heckling or get the death threats, which I think are outrageous. And there is no punishment great enough for people who have death threats out to players because they lose a bet or they are upset about the result that a player has. But what out do you want me to give to a player who does this? I've been thinking about it since this story broke on ESPN, thinking about what would be, as president of a team, my thought for my player. Would I still sign the player? Because I know he's going to help me. Do I say, oh, the player learned a lesson, he'll never do it again? Or do I say, hey, recidivism, it's a pretty big thing, not just in gambling, but in life. And so if he did it once, odds are pretty good he's going to do it again, and then we're going to be stuck. We don't have to pay him. He'll be suspended, could be kicked out of the league, could be suspended for life, but we had built our team based on him playing, not him not playing. Tell me. I need someone. At David P. Samson, get to me my DMs. Send me an email at davidsamsonpodcast.com. Find a way to make me understand, because my brain, oof, the best and worst part of my body is right here. I can't find it. Oh, I know what you're going to say. This is a good one. This one always makes me smile. He's betting on his team. He's not betting against it. What's wrong with someone saying, I'm going to be good? Do you know that when you're betting on your team, you're betting against your opponents? And you may think there's no fraternization that goes on, but you'd be wrong. You may think that it would be impossible that someone who bets on his team would say to someone on the other team, hey, by the way, I'd like to win this game by 8, or I'd like to lose it by no more than 7, or hey, I'd like to get 2 stolen bases tonight. If you can arrange that and we're losing or winning the game, just let me have that. Is that cool? Don't dive for the ball. Just let it drop right in front of you. Do it with 2 outs, no one on, and should just let it bounce. I need a base hit. You don't see the possibility that cuts right to the problem when you bet on yourself to succeed versus betting on yourself to fail. Betting on yourself to fail, it's just more obvious that that's an integrity issue if you have an impact on the game. But betting on yourself to win, you're also having the same impact on the game because you're betting on yourself to win, or you're betting on your team, or you're betting on your props. There is a sacrifice that you make when you are a professional athlete or when you're in a front office. It's very simple. The sacrifice is you can't gamble. Now, the union is protected. The union has negotiated. We're going to allow gambling on other sports, not our sport. We're going to allow, there's something that Coca told me the other day, that now college players, Coca, did I get this wrong? I haven't been able to hear you in my ear at all this show, so that could be an Italy thing or a setup thing. But did I get it wrong that there's now a situation in college where it's possible that college players will be able to bet, just not on their own team or maybe on their own sport? The slippery slope is, not on college sports, but on all other sports. It's totally kosher now. The issue is that they are contemplating allowing for college players to do that, because what college players are saying is, hey, you may not categorize me as an employee, but listen, I like to bet on games. I would like to just throw it out there. If you're an athlete, wait till you're done being an athlete. Wait till you're done playing at any level, including the California Penal League, before you bet on sports. It's just not worth it because A, you're going to get caught. And B, if you're allowed to do something, but you're not allowed to do something else in that area, by doing something you're allowed to do, there's going to be leakage. And I mean like silicone type leakage that causes extra surgery type leakage, because you're going to end up doing something that you shouldn't do and say to yourself, oh, sorry, I didn't realize that. Isn't it easier just to never eat pork than to decide, oh, I can have bacon, but I can only have it if it's toasted, and pepperoni on pizza, but please don't eat a ham and cheese sandwich? I just feel like it's easier. We're going to find out what happens here with Malik Beasley, whether he gets charged. And meanwhile, these investigations go on and on. Shams is reporting that Terry Rozier has been cleared of his investigation so far, but these investigations are not about nothing. Luis Severino, I'm tipping my cap to you. You're my man. He's a member of the Aths. You may not remember. Well, if you're a Yankee or Met fan, you know Luis Severino. If you like the number 67, I mean, it's close. You may be a fan of Luis Severino, the man who signed a 3-year, $67 million deal to play in Sacramento and stood there proudly with the owner, John Fisher, as they introduced, "We are different. We are the Cubs in a rebuild, signing Edwin Jackson and overpaying him because who could stand losing a hundo? We are heading into a new stadium, so we're going to sign a player to..." No, he won't be in the new stadium. "We are moving to a new city, and we are going to do it with proof that we're here to compete." Oh, no, we're not acknowledging that we even play in Sacramento, so it can't be that. "We want to show the union that we're spending money." What? Ridiculous. The contract itself was ridiculous when it was signed. Total overpay. Here's my rule of when you overpay a player. When you overpay a player, the player should be willing to play nicely. The players should be willing to say, I am so thankful that the Sacramento Aths gave me $67 million in a 3-year deal. I don't care about Vegas. I don't care about Oakland. I don't care about Sacramento. I don't care about the clubhouse or the air conditioning or walking in from left field. I don't care about any of it because you gave me $67 million. Therefore, when I'm asked, I'm going to be super supportive and super fall in line. Just keep those checks coming, Johnny boy. Well, Severino has not quite done that. He's sort of done the opposite. He has come out loud and proud against the stadium in Sacramento, what was once considered an above-average AAA stadium, showing you the difference between AAA and the big leagues. Big difference. The union and the league got together, and they recognized that the team couldn't stay in Oakland, that the team needed a temporary place to play in the same time zone, that there was a TV revenue issue by keeping the team in the same general neighborhood. The union and the league agreed all throughout the process that the Sacramento Stadium was going to be mediocre with occasional days of total hot and wet and crap. The union was a part of it from day one. So was the league. Everyone knew. Everyone knew that it was not going to be ideal. Severino, when he signed, he knew he was signing to be a Sacramento player for 3 years. I've always contended that all you have to do to get a player to do anything you want, similar to an employee, if you overpay, you're going to get what you want. The problem is Sacramento didn't get what it wanted. They got a guy impugning Sacramento in the stadium every single day. They've got a guy who has these great home road splits where when he's on the road, he's playing in big league parks, he said, big league hotels, big league clubhouses, big league air conditioning, big league surface. I can pitch like a big leaguer. Now, don't bother me when I give up a ton of runs on the road like he did at Yankee Stadium. Don't bother me when I'm not pitching well or have a 2-9 record with a 5+ ERA. Don't bother me unless, of course, you want to trade me. In which case, hell yeah. I would love to take that overpay and go pitch for a contender because the Aths stink and they're sellers. Now, I know as much as anyone that you can buy during the offseason and sell during the season when your team doesn't perform at the level that you deluded yourself into thinking the team would perform at. Normal. I didn't realize that the A's would be 16.5 games behind the Astros. I didn't see the A's going 12-16 in June. I didn't see the A's as having a better record right now than only the White Sox and the Rockies. My pick for manager of the year was Mark Kotsay, for crying out loud, Meatloaf. Now, are the A's going to sell as they head into Vegas, supposedly in 2028, or Portland, or wherever it is they're going to play, or Sacramento? When you're running a team, you sell when you're supposed to sell, you buy when you're supposed to buy, and you try to be good the first year of a new stadium. Page 1, page 2, page 3 of the owner's playbook. It's a busy playbook. But in this case, if you are John Fisher and the Aths, and you're looking for money, which you are, you can't necessarily get the price you want for the earthquakes, which you need. You know you've got a funding gap with a Vegas ballpark or any ballpark where you're only getting under $400 million of public money for a $2 billion ballpark. If you can save operational money for a team that has no chance, you can bet your sweet bippy you're going to do it, except there's not one team out there who will trade for Luis Severino at his current price. You remember that we love marking players to market. You may remember that we love looking at all of our players and saying, oh, that guy makes $5 million in the open market, he'd make 30. That's a plus 25 for me. You may remember when a guy's making 30 million but is playing like a minimum guy, you're saying, oi, that's a minus 29 for us. And if you are in the minus on your team, you're not doing well and you're not doing it right. Well, the minute Luis Severino signed on the dotted line, and I do not blame him in the least, $67 million for 3 years? Where do I sign? The problem is They can't get anyone to pick up that contract. It's a 2-year deal. This is year 1. Year 3 is a player option. Now, maybe Luis Severino doesn't pick up year 3 at $22 million. He's going to. Therefore, what baseball teams have to do is they have to include money in a trade. So what it would mean is you're paying someone to not play for you. Bad enough when you're paying injured players not to play, but they're still on your team, whether they're on your roster or not, if a 60-day injured player is not on the roster, but those are just rules. But when you are paying for a player to play for another team, believe me, I've done it. It's terrible. You can pretend that you don't look and you can pretend that you're not paying attention, but you do look and you are paying attention. And the only way for the Aths to move Severino is to pay his salary or a good part of it. Not going to happen, even though Severino wants to get traded. I want to bring up in my head 4869. 0 for 3 today, Coca. Love you, man. I'm going to get better. The Florida Panthers. We talked dynasty with Stan Van Gundy. 3 Stanley Cup appearances in a row. 2 Stanley Cup wins in a row. According to the math of dynasty, they need to get back to the Stanley Cup, win 1 more in the next 2 years, and then they'll be a dynasty. What do teams do when they've won? They want to run it back. Interestingly enough, teams that don't win say, oh, we're going to run it back because of injuries. We're going to run it back because of bad luck. The teams that should run it back are the teams that are in the middle of a dynasty and winning cups. The problem is you don't want to run back your entire team because the odds of everything being as perfect as it was for this run, they're not going to continue to exist. The Panthers were in a situation with their great coach, Paul Maurice, their great as yet undecorated GM, Bill Zito. They had a bunch of free agents on their team, including the Conn Smythe winner, Sam Bennett, who they got signed, Ekblad, Brad Marchand, the enemy they traded for at the deadline, who became like synonymous with their team. Shocking that you can trade for the enemy and make him part of you and your love of your team. And other than Mike Ryan, actually end up loving the player, the person, everything about him. The Panthers have found a way to bring them all back. 37-year-old Brad Marchand signed a 6-year deal with a over $5 million AAV. The guy's 37 years old. What in the name of I'm going to need a wheelchair along with my new teeth is going on with that? Are there a bunch of 43-year-olds playing hockey? I believe in this Stanley Cup, there was a guy whose last name was Perry who was the big 4-0, and that was the anomaly. So could there be a 40-year-old on a good team? Maybe. A 41-year-old? No. 42? Come on. 43? What are we doing here? If you're Brad and you have an opportunity to get 6 years, $30 million, and the Panthers get to only make it $5 million per year, and their view is, hey, from a cap standpoint, we can do this, and we'll carry the dead cap. We'll keep paying you not to play. We won't dress you 3 years from now. Or did they have some sort of deal with Brad that said, hey, we're going to sign you for 6 years, $30 million, but we want you to retire after 3 because we were only going to give you $315. But that math is really all the same. Maybe he wanted 3 for 10. And instead of the $30 million over 3 years, they just spread it out over 6 years. So that helps their cap. Everyone is out there trying to convince us that the Panthers are doing something wrong, that why are they running it back and doing the deals the way they're doing them? They've got everyone signed through at least 2030, like their whole core, which is so long from now that it seems insane. What dynasty other than the Celtics with Bill Russell is going to have a run like that? This is greater than Gretzky. It's greater than Jordan. 6 titles in 8 years plus a retirement. It's just impossible to believe. So why? The answer is relatively simple. You look around at your team, you look at the value of your team, you look around at what you're doing, and what you're easily able to say is that this financially makes sense. What we're doing is the exact way to treat performance on the field. When you get it, you take advantage of it, and you ride it. You ride it till it's raw. And then you look right in the camera and you simply say that while you're not paying attention, we're building a team that wins games, but we've also changed the entire outlook of our P&L. We've increased the value of our team in a way that nobody else is doing. We're doing it in a way that you're going to criticize, and we're not going to care a lick. Why would we? Because for us, we look and say, it's just business. Welcome back, Florida. We'll see you at the elbow room. This is nothing personal.